So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another podcast episode of Curious Success. This is episode what, Simba?
You ain't gonna put me in the spot like that. I'm gonna keep that off the podcast. Don't put me in the spot like that. Don't put me in the spot.
Nevertheless, this is Rasheen, one of the key contributors and founders of the podcast. Just a little bit of the background. Been working in nonprofit for over 10 plus years. I enjoy bringing a positive message. And sharing that with other individuals, and that's like my main focus for why Curious Success was established, to have positive conversations and expose people to topics or discussions that are just not regularly discussed. So I'll pass it off to him.
Well, I gotta do that too. So I'm Simba Hughes. So I work in the financial sector, and oversee one of the co-founders of Curious Success, and just part of this journey to talk about different topics, social issues, contemporary issues, and just have fun doing it and meeting great people along the way. So I hope you guys and tuning guests, you're going to announce yourselves soon. So hopefully we're going to have a good time today.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. Absolutely.
Ladies, whoever wants to go first.
Taiji Brower, entrepreneur, network marketer. Been in that field for going on 7 years now, and we just focus on changing lives, making a living.
Jess Train. Also been in nonprofit for several years, in education before that, do sort of mental health and some therapy stuff, and also do a lot of training to teach other people about mental health and about clinical skills and sort of the basics of the wonderful world of mental health.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Shake your shoulders. Get yourselves comfortable now. All right. So today's topic is why sell oneself short in 2018. I thought about this as just working in the field of nonprofit and pretty much doing youth development, and just coming across so many different young individuals that just have various levels of challenges that that's what my job is, to try to help them succeed and progress. And not only observing their challenges and their struggles, but it's just had me just think about overall looking at our world and just what's going on with people in New York and so forth, and just the challenges that people may have, even with we're coming into the year 2019 soon. And it's just like, where are people at? Are people still struggling? Are people still doubting themselves? Do people still have insecurities about whether or not they can progress? Do they have the potential to get to where they want? A lot of people say they want to be rich, don't know how to do that, but that's something that's always been like an ultimate goal for them. So I felt like this would be a good topic to have a discussion on. So the first question is, what does selling oneself short mean?
For me, it's pretty much not believing in yourself. I think that's one of the most challenging tasks, is just knowing that you too could do anything that anyone else has done. Clearly, if it's done before, it could be done again. And so belief for me, that was everything. And I can say that from experience, because in the field that I'm in, I was in the field going on 7 years, but I don't think that I really started working it only 5 years. And the reason why was the first 2 years was belief. I didn't physically think that I could be a millionaire. Why? Because I didn't have any in my family. I didn't have any examples that I knew that knew me, not just me seeking mentors that I didn't know. And so once I started building my mindset on belief and knowing that I too can do this, it allowed everything else to almost pretty much open up, like the next step, and pave the way. And so for me, it's belief. I think a lot of people just simply don't believe in themselves, or have the belief, period, that they can do it if someone else could. Only you're strong, you're this, you're that. No, I could tap into myself too and see that I have a strength in this area, so on and so forth, that could be applied. So belief for me.
Okay.
I totally agree with that. I think for me, so much of selling yourself short is about what you go after, and how much you're willing to reach for. And when you're in that place of selling yourself short, you sort of reach closer and closer and stop going for things, and you make your life smaller and smaller and smaller bit by bit by not aspiring to things and not stepping up and not taking those chances to be bold, be brave, step out of your comfort zone, whatever that looks like for you.
So piggybacking on what you guys said, I was just going to say, like, it's belief, and to me it's also like confidence, right? Like, I think that's one of the key things, like personally and professionally. Like, a lot of times you put yourself, so examples, or when you feel you're not qualified for a job or for a particular role, and I'll kind of downplay myself, right, to leading up. I might really think I want it, but this is really for me. And other people will have to be like, dude, of course you got this. Like, you're gonna crush this, right? So I think just in general sense, and that's both professionally and personally, to me, it's like a belief in oneself, and having a certain level, a confidence level. And I think you sell yourself short by not having those things, right, or those things lacking, right, for whatever reasons. And I'm sure we're going to get into some of those reasons, but I think ultimately that's kind of where you're not being an advocate for yourself, right, in various different reasons. Again, both personally and professionally, relationships, right? Not thinking you're not having enough value in yourself, right? To think that you're worth something in a particular relationship, or professionally in a particular role, or if you want a new job, right? And you apply to that job and you don't think you're qualified enough, or you go to an interview and you downplay yourself when you should be selling yourself more. So that's kind of like my high level kind of like summary of that question, or to answer that question.
I agree with you all. So ditto.
He's like, I'm good.
No, but I like when it's so much that one can think, like, that I think about when it comes to that, whether or not like someone is like, because they might have been raised on like limitations being presented to them, so it's always been a struggle for them, because limitations is just like what you only can do so much. But then it's like also like what you said, Taiji, was like what the reality may be. Like some people will have expectations, but they set expectations for themselves, but don't know how to go about it. So then it's like that's their stumbling block. And once they feel like they stumbled, it's like, how do I make my way from there? It's like I'll just stop. Mm-hmm. And of course we want to get more in depth into this, but I really feel like those. Like one placing limitation on themselves or being presented with limitation, if someone has been telling them you can't do it, you only can do so much. Like that could really get in one's head, especially if at a younger age they might have experienced that. I could see that being a strong challenge for people. Like, I'm never going to climb Mount Everest. What's that anyway? Mm-hmm. It's just things that are just they feel, because it could just be lack of exposure, but they feel like that's something I'm never going to be able to do anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's like the doubt and all that comes into play. Mm-hmm. So. Mr. West. Did y'all see Kanye? Did you hear about Kanye?
I heard briefly. I didn't see it myself. I saw clips.
So Kanye met with the president. What was it supposed to be, a lunch?
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to be a lunch.
It was supposed to be a lunch.
Didn't look like they was eating. And I brought Kanye up because I felt like, what exactly is this example of? Like, what is being shared here? Where did he need to seem like he need to humble himself going into that meeting, and talk about the hat being like a Superman cape for him in terms of the Make America Great Again, and just knowing all that was behind Trump's campaign is like, is his approach right? Was he selling himself short in that conversation, and how he embraced it and what he was saying? And of course, like, it's like, why did you feel like you need to curse to get your point across as well? It's just like you once again sound like you're going on another Kanye rant. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, well, how you making us look? And it's not like Kanye is the representative of all black people or minorities. No way in hell. Mm-hmm. But regardless, it's like you at a certain status in life. You pretty much have this person's ear to some extent. He's allowing you to talk to him. Mm-hmm. Whether or not he's listening is different. But he's allowing you to talk to him. So it's like, how do you feel about that? I don't, like, you probably want to like go check it out, because he brought up some things, you know, and people disagreed with him. Some people might felt like, okay, he made some points that had sense, that made some sense, but I was like, okay, I can understand that, but some people feel a little different about that.
So I didn't actually watch it. Like I saw the link on on the websites and whatnot. I was like, I ain't gonna click on it, right? I'm not gonna give you that viewership. But I actually, in this example, and I think Kanye's career thus far, he's always had the confidence. Like even I remember his first album, College Dropout, True to Wire. Like he was like, he's talking about everybody doubted him, and the only reason why I made it this far was because I had confidence and belief in myself. So I'll be honest, I've never felt he sold his. I've never felt like he sells himself short. I've always felt he's had the confidence. Now, if he's getting into right or wrong and, what he's talking about and should he be the representative? Is he even the representative? Obviously not, right? But I don't think he sold himself short. I just think he comes across, I don't want to go too much into him, but he comes across as he's not informed on a lot of topics, right? And he's always been like that. He's incoherent when he talks. He's always from thought to thought, idea to idea. And I think when he gets like this, when it's like if he's hype about it, as my friend was telling me, it's like and they believe he's on meds or he's on something where because he acts the same way. It's just when he's on this level, he just takes it. He's just more intense, right? So just in a nutshell, I actually don't think Kanye ever sells himself short, right? He's probably one of the few people who've like always had the confidence, right? Even his album, he's like, I love myself way more than I love, like he's always been like, I love me first, right? Always. So I just think he's misinformed. And I've gotten to the point now I think he's just doing all these things for attention. And I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, do what you got to do. And I'm going to just keep doing what I need to do because you're clearly not representative for the people. And what you're saying, while it's incoherent and you may have some points, generally speaking, I don't agree with what he's doing. Right. So I just kind of, I don't want to give him any attention or put the spotlight on him because I think that's what he's clearly doing. Right, so he can probably sell an album, or sell some clothes, right, or sell some Kim Kardashian crap, right. So I'm not going to give him the time of day. But
Kardashian crap.
But to answer your question, just to tie it right back to the main thesis, the main point, he never sells himself short. He's always super confident. He's always like, I'm ego tripping. I feel like I'm the best ever. Like, I felt he's always been like that. So that's my take on him and that Trump situation.
Any comments, ladies?
I totally agree. Like I honestly don't give him too much. I don't put too much effort in him.
Yeah,
I just don't.
I'm done.
I just kind of feel like it's one of those things that rappers do. Like, for instance, and not all of them are like this, but there's some that create a fake beef, and the fake beef create content, and content sells.
Yeah.
And so it's just another way to make me relevant, and when you're paying attention to me, whether it's good talk or bad talk, it's talk.
Yeah.
And some of that talk and attention goes to selling more of my product.
Right.
And whether it looks like a holy shirt, because that's what he has, and some whatever.
Yeezy
Everybody
sneakers,
have their own,
sneakers.
but it's selling. And I think he's very smart in certain ways. And what he's doing and why he's doing it, I don't have the energy to go into that even deeper. Like if it's not doing anything for me and it could help people that I could see, like I don't listen, I'm not.
Just a quick point on that. So the fake beef thing, that's marketing, and there is a genius in it. Like 50 Cent used to do it all the time, right? Create fake beef just to create anticipation and hype for his product, which in turn made it sell more.
Right.
So that's great business decisions. After a while, that kind of gets, be beating a dead horse. But the Kanye thing, that's kind of, if I really think about it, that's disappointing me, is if you're doing this for attention, but I think in whatever intent you have, you're not realizing the side effect or the impact, right, that you're having by wearing your MAGA hat. And here's the thing: you can say what you want about Trump. He's doing things for the people that got him in, right? But so his agenda. But I just don't agree with what he represents. And by Kanye, this is the disappointing part. By Kanye aligning himself with someone like that, in a way, you're basically kind of saying I agree with what he represents and his agenda and all these different things that came comes with him, right? Since he's been, like, he's a reality TV president, but like all the things is, like, since he's been in office, this has been happening. I don't think you should align yourself with him, because, like, he doesn't understand. Forget you and the president, what you're doing for other people and how that looks in your own community. Forget minority, just like as a whole, right? Because it's not just people of minority that disagrees with him and disagrees with the agenda, right? So that's, I think, to me, that if I really think about it, I don't give a crap anymore. But if I really just wanted to answer it, like, I'm disappointed, because I'm like, you didn't even know what you're doing when you put on that hat and when you support him because of what his agenda and what he represents and the people that he, talks about this about women, does this to other women, says this about, this type of people, hurricane relief. He kind of like throwing the tissue and the relief, like, he just like, hey, you're having fun, like that, so I'm disappointed. If I had to put a word on it, overall, if I really dig deep, I'm disappointed in what he's doing.
And I think to that, like, it's interesting, like, I also didn't watch the clip, but I heard that same quote that you mentioned before, the, like, it makes me feel like Superman thing.
And just color red.
Yeah,
that's
very
all
simple.
That's because the hat is red. That's all you do.
And it's so interesting, like, we do see that all the time, like, people getting confidence from things that are very questionable. Like, the example that comes to mind for me are, like, relationships where, like, you look at your friend who's in, like, what to you is the worst relationship in the world, and they're like, but I love them, and da, da, da. And you're like, yeah, but it seems to be, like, destroying your life, though. Mm-hmm. But there's some piece of it in there that's building them up, and so they're turning a blind eye to everything else. But then, to your point, like, the scale of which you're turning a blind eye is insane. Like, when it's a relationship, it's your own personal life versus the president and all of the power that that person has to affect everybody's lives, to destroy everybody's lives, to damage all of these things, and to, like, be in a place where you're ignoring that and just embracing whatever confidence it gives you is really wild to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, but I definitely feel like when you see, like, someone that of his status, comes from hip hop, if you're a fan of hip hop, you're a fan of the music, you will pay attention. You would know who Kanye West is. You know who he was connected to, if it, being Jay-Z and so forth, and all these people that played a part in his career. And youth development, working in this field, that there's going to be youth that probably listen to his music or been impacted by his music or something like that. I can't ignore it. I got to make sure that whatever the conversation is, I'm willing to have the conversation, and I'm willing to, like, be honest about my opinions and listen to other people's opinions as well to have a constructive conversation about it. Like, this is someone that, like, it will be a ripple effect. You have influence. You are influenced where you have enough money that I think he said he was a billionaire. I don't know how true that is.
No.
But he said he was a billionaire.
Maybe we're combined.
Fake news. Fake news.
She might be.
Yeah.
He said he was
Fake news.
Said I'm a billionaire.
Nah.
Okay, Kanye.
Alternative facts.
But so it's one of those things. But I felt that with just knowing how his background and how just the backstory with Trump and how he ran his campaign and just how he came across, it was just he didn't come across as being assertive. He came more across as, like, trying to, cower to him, cater to him. And, with the description about the hat and all this other stuff, and it was like, even if he would have probably put it in a better way, it's like, I did this, but this is how I see it, and this is how I feel like America should be made great again, but not in a sense where it's like, because you came with this hat, it gave me, like, superpowers, and just the way it sounded just extra to me. It doesn't sound really extra, but it sounded like someone is like, are you really, like, do you really know yourself at this point? Know what you're saying and what impact it can have, and that was a challenge to me, just hearing that out, so that's my quick thoughts.
I'm done. I'm off him. Like, I still think he's musically, he is talented. Like, you can't take that away from him. But regardless of what he's done, but all this extra crap, like, I ain't got no time for him anymore. So, like, even so, when his album comes out, whenever it comes out, usually I would still listen to it at least prior years, right? This year, I think his album's still supposed to come out. I'm not even gonna check for it unless someone tells me it's like incredible. I'm like, you know what? Let me go on iTunes or let me go on Apple Music or Spotify or something. Listen. But other than that, he keep doing what he's doing. I'm not giving him no attention. I'm paying him no mind. You don't matter. Kanye don't matter. I'll put that on a T-shirt.
Hashtag.
I'll put that on a T-shirt.
You gotta
Kanye
put it
don't
on a
matter.
hat.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it.
A red hat.
Red
If you don't see me with a red hat, Kanye don't matter. Don't take that. Don't take that. Don't take
All
that.
right,
I'm
best
not
wish.
gonna take it, but I want one.
Best wishes to you, Mr. West. All right. So, is it easier or harder to establish a successful career these days for poverty-stricken individuals? Is it easier or is it harder?
I think honestly, I just feel like there's so many things to do. It's so many ways to be creative. If you just present yourself, stay around like-minded people,
Positive individuals.
pour into your mind and read certain things. I think that I was just sitting with my cousin the other day, and I was just like, all of these new companies are just popping up. I don't know if you guys ever heard of something called Instacart. Have you?
I've heard of it. Yes.
Sounds
Anyway,
real familiar.
they tell me that they came up with an app that, and I'm gonna tie it back, but they came up with an app.
Don't
where
get
you
too
can
long with
act-
it.
I will-
No, joke. It's gone now. Cheers.
No. I'm just it just makes me think like we all have ideas, and if we just sit around and just tap into our creative mind, there's things that could pop up. So nowadays you can make money from gaming. You can make money from I've seen people make money from just eating on, what is it called when you eat on YouTube? It's like this thing where this lady gets a lot of money because of views, and it's not even the way she's drinking this water and eating the crabs, and she's making money. So I just say that to say that.
What is she just like tasting from like different restaurants?
You mean like Anthony Bourdain type thing, or like
Yeah.
you just mean like traveling around the world
No,
eating different foods?
she cooks crabs or whatever, and she's dipping it, and it's drooling.
Wait, is she showing how to make them, like make certain dishes, and then
Well,
it's, like,
she's
tasting
making a
after
fool
that?
of
I'm gonna
herself.
go back. I'm gonna find out.
Yeah,
But
right.
it's
Do you know?
it's
I
something
think
that
I know what you're talking about. It's literally just watching her eat.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, like,
Oh,
she
really?
doesn't teach you how to cook. She's not, like, teaching. It's just, like, this lady very into what she's consuming, and people pay to watch it, and she's making bank.
with this conversation. It's actually a phrase. They call it something, and
Alright.
other people are starting to do it. So why I say
Wow.
this? I say that to say this. Coming from a poverty-stricken background or not, if you tap into your creative sense or just get around people that may be a little bit more creative to you, that pull something out of you that you didn't have, like I think that you can make it. Like, I don't believe nowadays that you just have to come from a Johnson & Johnson background to be able to be wealthy, and you have to just, again, believe in you and have the right mentorship environment, and I think that you can bring something out. And I just go back to Instacart because I brought it up. It's someone created an app where people pay you to shop for their groceries, they pay you to deliver it, and they'll give you a tip, only so they can just stay home. People want things where if they can do less, convenience.
That's what it
And
is.
so who would have thought to come up with an app,
Hold on. So just to unpack that a little bit, right? You're saying that, like, so if we were right here, we're in the studio right now, I could get on the app and say, hey, I want to, so folks, Jessica didn't like that I got Rashim a bigger water bottle, but so I can order some Poland Spring. Shouldn't give them a shout out, but some Poland Spring, like
You're
super
doing a whole bunch of
right. The liter versions, and someone's
will come here
Yeah.
before you're.
they're gonna buy it, deliver it,
Let you know that they're outside.
right, and I just pick it up
all
and get
from
them a
the
tip.
app. Yep. And you don't even tip them. You don't even have to tip
I
them.
could tip them on the app if I wanted, like an Uber thing. Okay,
That's
Wow.
insane. So doesn't matter what background, what part of the world, you know, things to me are becoming more accessible. And if you just tap into it, you know, I think that you can create something and make something out of yourself. And so
that's it. Like, I do agree with you in lots of ways, but I also think, like, there's a difference between easier and easy. And there are absolutely people who have it easy, right? Like, being white, being from an upper middle class or upper class family, like, gives you so much automatic opportunity. And so, like, the push to have the creativity to make that kind of app, like, that's amazing. But also there's people who don't have to be creative and then have it made anyways. Right. And, like, I just think we have to, like, keep that in mind too. There's so many people who, like, are never pushed to have to do that to
be successful,
be totally set.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So I mean, so it's a little bit of both. Like I'm
I think it's easy. It's
easier
or harder.
No.
Like, where we gonna combine a word or something? Like,
stop.
Is it
No,
easier?
No, it's a little bit of both for me, right? It's easier, and so on a Taiji point, it is easier, right? Like, I do believe it's a little bit more accessible and easier to be successful coming from a particular background, right? Right. I didn't come from a well-off background, and I'm doing pretty well for myself, right? But, like, you know, I think, like, the excuses, so to speak, right, that you would have had 20, 10, 30 years ago, you don't have that anymore. So a lot of it is, to me, it's the confidence. And I view this as, like, I'm going at my own experiences, having, and you mentioned it, like, having the opportunity, right? Having a group of people who can guide you, like mentors. Like, that mentorship factor is very important, and a lot of people don't have mentors, right? Like, you don't know what to do in your next step in your career. And I had the privilege of having people work at the same firm I work, and, you know, I'm able to say, hey, I want to go this role or that, what's decision? And even people outside of that, we would meet up and get lunch or get tea, coffee or something like that, and they would, okay, try this, what about this, right? And you're getting guidance from people who've been there and done that, right? And they're willing to provide, to give you that advice free of charge, so to speak, right? They're mentoring you. So I think it is easier, right? And I always bring up me, because I'm like, hey, and you know, he's known me since I was, like, damn, 17, 18 years old. I came to this country. I'm a naturalized American, but, like, I wasn't born and raised here, and I came over here, and you know how what I'm doing and the growth that I've shown, right? So I always look at it myself and say, hey, if I can do it, there's other people who, worse off than me, but if you have certain things, and to me, what I always say, you always have to pay it back, right? So if I'm in a position, right, pay it back, right? So you go to different volunteer opportunities, whether it be your time or your money, you try to ensure, hey, the next person or people have an opportunity like you to not only do what you did, but be better than you, right? But then on the flip side, I'm like, I in corporate, like, you see a lot of it. You see a lot of that privilege, right? You see, where I felt like I got to work 150% just to, feel like I got a shot, where others can half-ass it, and they're getting the same opportunities or more so than me. And I'm like, this guy's not better than me, and you know that, right? I feel that even though you talk about the Instacart and the creativity behind that and bringing ideas, like, who's going to give you seed money? Like, I can talk about all the ideas you want. Like, you need money to make money, like, in a weird. So it's like, the chicken and egg, who's going to give you that to, like, begin your journey and begin what you need to do, right? A lot of these people who, middle class and upper middle class and above, they have opportunities whereby someone gives them a shot, right? A lot of people in poverty-stricken areas, even if you had the confidence and the mind and the genius, the intellect to do so, if you don't have that seed money or someone behind you to push, just a little push, open that door for you, tell you, hey, go down that door, you'll never make it, right? So I'm a little bit 50-50 on it, because I know while it's easier and it's 2018, there's a lot of things you can do to make yourself self-made. There's a lot of systematic things that are still in place that still makes it difficult. And I'm no way in shape or form like an educator or right, work with the youth and different things like that. But people I've spoken to at nauseum, they definitely come from a different angle, and they can, I'm sure Rasheem and different folks like that could come and say, hey, no, I get you, but there's a lot of systematic things that people of color or minorities still can't overcome. So even in 2018, it is still difficult to be successful and to sell oneself, right? So I'm a little bit, 1 minute I'm glass half full, and then I can understand the glass half empty side of the house, so that argument.
I can say that too as well. However, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I think it's definitely easier nowadays. It's about the choice, and it's about how one goes about educating themselves. I think those are the main things, is whether or not that person is willing to do it, and understanding with being willing to do it, it's going to take a certain level of commitment. And then how you go about educating yourself, whatever that may be, if it's getting a college degree, if it's getting your GED, if it's going further than that, if it's reaching out to other individuals to take on mentorship, whatever that is for that person to help them succeed, is whether or not they are willing to do that. I think with just like where we at technology nowadays, it's like it's so much that people have access to. It's just so much. It's like I keep going back to this, because if you see how easy it is for like hip hop artists nowadays, who are not really like, for some people, if they deep into the culture, you're not really an MC. You're just a rapper, and you're performing, and you talk about perks, lap a dance, or something crazy. And next thing you know, you got a hit. Or whatever be the case.
You got a hit. You're touring. You're making money.
But it's just like it's things like that. But just shows you how easy it is. You just brought up someone just eating, and people watching this person eat. Like, literally, it's just so many things or so many ways nowadays that you can gauge someone's interest. And it just might be you just need to sell your character. And that's it. And someone's like, yo, this character is dope. I love this. I really enjoy this. And then next thing you know, the person's rich. When I ask a question about career, it's really not about someone becoming rich. So sometimes someone can hear that and they may think it's automatic. Oh, you talk about someone becoming rich. It's about someone being able to get a job and get a career and like have some stability in life, which I feel that is much easier nowadays compared to how you can probably go into the 80s or 90s or whatever. I feel like it's just much more easier to be able to do that nowadays. So no comebacks are okay. Woo!
They always say the how is not important, the why is.
Okay.
So once you have a strong enough why, the how will figure itself out.
All right. So does America's class system oppress the people? Has it not evolved for the better with time? So it's a two-part question.
Say that again.
Does America's class system oppress the people? Has it not evolved for the better with time?
I mean,
upper class, middle class, lower class.
I mean,
upper class, middle class, lower class.
Chill. I mean, he's trying to make a song. That's what he's doing. So I think I'm going to answer the second part first. I think it has gotten better with time. Just you think historically, and you think all the different movements and errors and slavery, all these different things. Like, we have gotten the system that powers that be have gotten better, right? Overall, and I don't want to get into it too much, right? Because that's can be a really deep dive type of conversation. But just to answer it plain, yes, it has gotten better. The first part you talk about oppression. This is this. I always feel conflicted with this. It's I know it exists, but I always try to have when horses race, they have blinders on, so they always keep it sounds bad because then I know people have conversation with many different people, different industries about it, and they're like, well, you can't just have on blinders. It's happening. You can't not be aware or cognizant of what's happening. But I always try to be well, yes, oppression is still happening, but if I have if I'm focused on my task and what I need to do, then I feel like, at least this is me, glass half full, I can overcome it. So regardless of what's happening, I can overcome, right? So I would say yes, right? But I also say and I told you, I came over here. I'm Caribbean, I'm Trini. I came over here and I did I'm doing the thing, and it's are we oppressed? Yeah, but if I always feel like if I have that mentality, even though I know it exists, that again, I'll sell myself short. I'm not gonna have that confidence to overcome and overpower and do well and have that chip on my shoulder, because that's pretty much what's gotten me like in corporate. That chip, that like, yeah, I could outwork you. Yeah, I'm gonna go home after this and study my ass off. And Sunday I gotta go to work, but I'm gonna also study. So not only when the work week comes, I'll able to make decisions, etc. But the chip on my shoulder just keeps me, is the engine that keeps going. So yes and yes, right? It still exists. It hasn't gotten better. It has gotten better. Sorry, but I always try to like just focus, because I feel like when I play into it too much, I've had conversations with people where it's like, well, yeah, we are being oppressed. So what can we do? Like it's like we have a ceiling, like it's a glass ceiling, right? So if there's a ceiling here, then it doesn't matter what I do, I'm always gonna hit it. So why am I existing? What's my purpose? Like until we fix the root problem, I really can't do anything. And my answer to that is like, well, then what's your purpose? Like just go home and chill. Like don't, if you feel like if you can't do anything, just go home and chill and do nothing. So that's why I feel like. Glass is just me, my personal preference. Glass half full. You can do it. You can overcome it. Work hard, work smart, and you can be successful, etc. So that's my way of answering that question. If I even did properly. Ladies, she was guys at the beginning of the session. She was acting like she Breakfast Club and Hot 97, and now she all quiet. And Jess, I didn't forget you too. You got come on now, let's go.
I agree with you in the sense, because I'm kind of similar to you. Like I definitely put the blinders on and I just focus on, because sometimes it get overwhelming, and I feel like I too, if I could put the blinders on and continue to go and succeed and overcome it, I could now then pull somebody else with me.
Right.
But if I get overwhelmed and much is not happening soon enough, and then it's just, I feel like it too will swallow me.
Right. I feel like I get caught in the mix.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one like, yeah, we oppressed. I can't do anything. Like, I can't. And I'm like, no, like, I feel like I got privilege too.
So little by little, I attempt to do little things. But overall, I'm going to have to honestly tell you, I don't put too much focus on it. And it may be bad to some extent, and it may not. I just know how I work and what helps me. And if I can't help me, I can't help nobody else. And so I'm going to leave it there.
Okay.
Part of why I haven't said much is I'm just like, yeah, I agree. Well, I think everything you said, like, yes and yes. I think it has gotten better over time. I think it's still real. And I think getting that chip on your shoulder is often the thing that pushes. And, like, also we can't be caught up in feeling hopeless about systems all the time. But also, like, the little ways that we address it by, like, what we do for ourselves. And also, like, everybody in this room has talked about all the things that we do for other people, too, to support everybody around us as well. And I think that's also our way of, like, chipping away at, like, the stupid glass ceiling. So, like, we don't need to be looking at it all the time, but that doesn't mean we aren't making a dent in it, too.
Absolutely.
Any feedback, Rasheen?
No. No, there's definitely still oppression there through the class system. The rich still are preying on the poor. That's still happening. That's still occurring. However, I feel like this system has evolved for the better with time. I think there's more acceptance. There's more recognition. You have, just use, for example, mixed marriages, more of that, children of mixed race, so they're showing that there's definitely, a connection of people from various backgrounds and so forth that's happening on a wider and larger level nowadays. So, someone that might have been like lower class can probably marry up, could be a situation for some people, but I feel like it's, for me personally, my personal opinion, it's hard for me not to pay attention to it. What I do is, with the work that I do, I try to combat that. You know, I try to be on the front line every day with the work that I do to try to help someone, you know, not limit themselves and feel like they're trapped in the system and they can't work their way out of it. So that's how I approach it. And like that's what sits well with me, you know, when I like go to rest at night, knowing like, you know, for that day I put in at least like 9 hours of work of trying to like help someone like understand that you shouldn't place a limit on yourself, and you should try to go above and beyond where like, you know, it's there. Don't ignore it because it's going to have an effect on you some way, somehow, but you can also overcome it.
Nice.
Okay, all right. You put it a little too. He's like, all right, put a little something.
Whatever.
So sprinkle a little something.
Should self-understanding be second nature in these present times? Is it a failed teaching? I'm actually going to start on this one.
Yeah, because I don't know what you mean.
So,
unpack that.
So, in unpacking this, it's like when one knows themselves, they understand their capabilities. All right, they know what they're capable of doing. It's like when you go on a job interview and they ask you, "What are your 5 strengths?" Or just tell me about your strength. Or what is your greatest strength?
Well, tell me about yourself.
It's like you need to be able to know that, or you should know that as best as you can. Some people struggle with that. Some people fumble over their words. You know, some people doubt their strengths, you know, and their potential. So this is something that's been like, it's been ongoing. I feel like this is something that you either taught by your parents or you taught outside of the household, or it might be both. Like you're taught to to know yourself, know your capabilities, to understand that, you know, you can go further with your potential. You can develop that into something greater to succeed in life. And I still feel nowadays there's still a lot of people that struggle with that. Mm-hmm. We struggle with understanding themselves, knowing their capabilities, and that is the reason why some people sell themselves short, because they just fail to understand, like, you should know the basics, the right from wrong, but then it's like that right from wrong evolves, so it doesn't just stay on that one level. It actually grows with time. The right and wrongs become more complicated. They become more layered. But it's like if a person can actually be able to see that it's growing into that stage of like there's layers to this now. It's not just the basic, okay, don't touch the stove because it's hot. Like it's more than that, you know?
I was going to say that. Experience helped that develop. Mm-hmm. And at least I can say it for me. I had no clue that I would be in the field that I'm in. Nor have I ever desired it.
Same.
I've never even... It just, and we were talking about this. Streetwise Partners actually had us do presentations. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here doing this presentation so I can graduate. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, what am I going to use this for? Mm-hmm. Today, I present all the time. And so it wasn't until certain things happened, and I was scared to death. Just like, I'm going to be honest, the podcast, I'm like, he's like, would you? I'm like, I'm writing yes, very slow. Yeah. Like, it was just like.
Your actions didn't show it, though. You came in like ready. Mic check one, let's go. You came in ready, though. I'm just saying.
I spoke with her. What was it? Thursday night? Wednesday night? Mm-hmm. I spoke to you Thursday night. And she's like, Rasheen, yeah, I'm going to send you something. I'm going to send you a little summary, a little bit of my background so you can put that in the email. And it's like, but if I don't, remind me. So I was like, okay.
Please send me a personal reminder.
We just had that conversation, right? Night went by. I'm like, oh, man, Taiji. All right. Let me send this reminder in the morning. And she responded.
And one of the reasons why I did follow through is because of the fear. I don't like when I feel the initial fear to come over me. And for me, if I don't follow through, it feels like it holds me captive. And so to go back to what you were saying, and when I was saying you develop it, I was working for corporate America for 8 years, had no idea that I was going to be a professional network marketer. I just knew that I love to travel. I initially started doing it just like that, traveling, and then it went into the marketing part of it. People love seeing what you're doing. They want to live the lifestyle you live if it look good.
All about it. That's all IG.
Right. And so, lo and behold, I started to develop in network marketing to where I was finally able to leave my career job. Did I ever thought that I was going to do that? No, I thought I was going to be there until I retire. And so I say that to say, even after I was making the money that I needed to make to leave my job, the fear still came over me. And it wasn't until I'm like, Taiji, look how far you came. You don't need this. You don't necessarily have to stay here. Spread your wings. And even after the resignation letter, I typed it up and everything, I was still nervous to hand it in. And I dotted my I's and crossed my T's, and still, it was just like, and guess what? I left 4 years later, and I still, so that experience showed me that if I could do that, I'm ready for the next challenge. I didn't see certain things in my future, but now I got past this that I didn't think that I can do. Now I know that I just got to tackle it. And so experience taught me, to tie back to the question, it was experience. It was experience to how I learned. And so
it took you a while. Go ahead.
So yeah, for me, I stand firm on experience. I think that you just gotta sometimes jump. You gotta jump, and then you'll see you'll grow your wings along the way if you jump. And jumping for me is experience.
So I agree, self-reflection is a hugely important skill. Thinking about self-reflection in the context of self-confidence, though, like, the thing that comes up for me is the people that I get more worried about are the people who are overconfident having poor self-reflection. Like, people who have no idea what their limits are and sort of walk into the room and take everything over. Those are the folks that I worry about. For the folks who don't have confidence, it's not that I think that they aren't self-reflecting. It's that, like, the mirror is there. It's just a funhouse mirror. Like, the negative things are what is sticking for that person. Like, they do see themselves, but they don't see their whole self. And so it's not so much that the self-reflection piece isn't there. It's that they're caught in the negativity as they're trying to engage in self-reflection.
Now, I was trying to escape y'all. No, I kind of.
You need to hear the question one more time?
Yeah, man.
All right. Should self-understanding be second nature in these present times? Is it a failed teaching?
So you go.
I went.
Yeah, answer. Wow.
Started off.
No, I was I was gonna answer, like, I was gonna chime in right after you talk, like, because I had a similar experience where it's like,
You was definitely going to piggyback. That's why.
no, because I had a similar experience. Like, why you? Yo, what?
Nah, go ahead.
I'm done. I'm gonna do a Kanye and rant and just walk out the room. No, I had a similar experience. Like, this past Friday would have been my 1 month with this new group and new team, right? I pretty much, so they came to me, right? I was working, same company, but I was like a different role, different group. And I basically didn't have, like, to your point, the fair, and didn't have much experience at all. And it was like, you kind of making a leap, right? And you're like, I was like definitely scared, and I had people with, the same mentors, and different people like, hey, no, you've got this. Like, you're fine. Like, stop worrying, right? And I even think, I'm not sure if we spoke about it, but I was telling my sister and other people, I was like the idea of, like, not knowing and, kind of making that leap, and like, to do things you've never done, you got to kind of make that leap, right? To learn, right? So bottom line, I've kind of like, and I'm kind of wrapping this up because I'm piggybacking, but I've had that similar experience, and this new team I've been with for a month, and I made that leap a month ago, right? And I'm still, I'm like, I tell you, like, I got to study, I got to, like, to make sure, like, I'm doing what I need to do, but, like, I'm basically like where you are with this, like, it to me, that going forward and having that self-understanding and learning and growing, to me, yeah, I'm kind of.
And whether it's fail or succeed, you still learn something out of it, and it still give you some confidence, self-confidence to either.
I would say if I failed, So if like 3 months, like so if 3 months, so they probably ain't gonna fire him, you know. I mean, but I don't even know. But like if I failed and like you were not, because I've been like a top performer, right? So it's like if I fail at this, like my confidence is gonna take a hit big time. So yes, I would have learned. I would have to like maybe after a while like think about it and say, okay, I'm better for it. But like definitely in the short term, I'm gonna take a hit. I'm gonna like not be confident. I'm gonna, to the point of the whole thesis of the podcast, I'm gonna sell myself short because I'm gonna feel like I didn't do what I was supposed to do, right? So that's like I also sell myself short, right? And like in this scenario, like after 3, you give it something, let's say 6 months, half a year. If I were like not performing as I should, I'm gonna, and people telling me that, and like multiple people, I'm gonna be like confident shot. Now you overcome it, but definitely in that short term, I'm definitely gonna take a hit. Professionally, obviously, and personally.
What if you're able to look at it from a different perspective early on and say, okay, this didn't work out, but I got this from this and could use this for that? Or what can I have done better and apply it to somewhere else? Maybe it may not be that particular company. You can apply it. So I think I like to take some type of positivity from every situation, good or bad. And I think that if you exercise your brain to work like that, you'll always get something out of it, and it'll always be a confidence.
You're 100% right with that. And one of my men, like he moved on, but he was always like, always look for the silver lining. To your point, the positive aspect. Even if you fail at certain things, look at, okay, what's the positive? What can you? So a lot of times you never think that far, and you're not looking at the benefit, and you're looking into maybe a close, like an angle, and you're like, oh, I'm not seeing this. This is, and someone, that's why, if people talk to you, like, oh, what about this? And did you know if this happens, this could happen, and you could put yourself in, so you now could take over this, and you're like, oh.
A lot of times it has a chain reaction.
Right. Yeah. So that's a great point. I just think personally for me, the reason why it's more like, because it's something I view it as, personally, it's something that I can control. I can control my performance because I feel like I have enough capability in my own self, right, to work hard, but also work smart and get the job done, right? And if I don't know something, you research and you learn, right? Don't get me wrong, you have your stumbles and your pitfalls, but I usually view it like the thing that I can control, let me, right? And there's obviously different pillars. So if I feel like I'm good at execution and strategy or whatever, but which I'm not, but in this piece, which like I said, no, I'm gonna say, like, if I'm not good in people skills, like talking to people, which I'm not, I'm good with that. But if I'm not good in that, and someone said, hey, you need feedback on that, I would take that as, to your point, I can learn from it, lesson learned, and going forward, I'll continue to do my job in X, Y, Z, but I'll improve in whatever him or her told me I need to improve in. But it's just a little, I guess, my own quirk, my own thing, things I feel I can control.
You can control what you put out.
Right, that's it.
But you can't control how people perceive it. And so I don't like, I mean, not to say I don't like.
No.
But sense. It just concerned me from hearing that. And I want to leave the table with you taking something from it. No, I'm just saying, because I would hate. I would hate.
He's like, y'all better wrap it up. He's saying, all right, woo. Wrap it up.
I just would hate for an experience like that to pretty much chip away from you as opposed to build you up. Right. And so even though you saw your fault, us discussing this, I would hope that you were able to take something from it to allow it to be a building block as opposed to a chip.
Absolutely. Because I'm being honest, like I do sell myself short, and people have told me like, hey, you're way, like with certain things, not everything, but with certain things, I get a little bit down on myself, and they're like, yo, dude, you're gonna crush, like, you kidding me? Like, it's not even an average, like, come on. And I always feel like it's just a weird quirk thing, and I'm like, nah, I didn't do good. Like interviews, I didn't do good, and people are like, you were the best one, or like you're one of the tops, and so just hopefully I do think something out of this, but it's just me. My own little quirk thing that I got is it is what it is. But as we go on,
I believe in
Can
you.
I chime in for like 1 second?
Whoa, go ahead. Yes, go. Yeah, let's go.
Hi, I'm here too. No, I was thinking about Taiji and I were talking earlier when y'all stepped out about all of the things we're going after that are making us nervous, including coming here. And that just sort of made me think about, like, yes, being put in a place where you can potentially fail is so scary and so hard to do, but also, like, that's a sign that you're not selling yourself short. That's a sign that you're reaching for those things. Like, you're doing it, dude.
Yeah.
High fives, of course, the one.
None to you.
Thank you. No, so one thing that I wanted to point out that I like that you all said in your responses, Taiji, you said experience. Jess, you said reflection. Simba, you said study and research, right? And I really think that some self-understanding nowadays is not a failed teaching. I think it's dependent on, because I feel like some people have been able to be conscious enough to tap into it, like they, but I feel like whether or not that person, like whoever the individual is, may place limits on themselves, can actually set a barrier for them in terms of them actually being able to really tap into, like, probably their full potential. But I feel like more people are conscious enough to understand, like, I have to know this about myself in order for me to succeed. If I don't know this about myself, I'm not going to go that far. But I really feel like the thing is, yes, understanding your experiences, taking time to reflect. I always try to, at the end of each day, try to reflect on what I did that day. Whether if I did something positive, whether or not if I did something negative, I really try to, like, unpack my day to think about what I need to do for tomorrow. And I think that's very important. I think when the research comes into play, it's also very important. You got to take time to actually, go out there and see what information is out there. How does it apply to you? When someone, that's always funny, because, like, when I, like, try to advise people how they look for work or jobs, especially if they don't know what they want to do, I say, look at the job descriptions. Do you feel like that plays a part to, like does that compare to your strengths? And like unpack those job descriptions. You might feel like, okay, you looked at all these various job descriptions, not all of them, like, you don't want to do all the positions, but you see, like, okay, if you did a comparison, what has more of the things that you want to do out of those job descriptions that best suits you? And then you're like, that's probably the position that I should be going for. I may not be ready now because it says I need this amount of education, I might need this, but I know now I have a pathway, and I think that's important for people to actually take that time and, like, do your research, and of course, like, I always feel self-talk is very important. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, when I think about if I'm limiting myself, why am I limiting myself? Do I consider myself strong? Do I consider, like, so that has to be in my head, and I feel like that's important for people to actually do when it comes to this.
Yes. Affirmations, self-talk. Yep.
So I love my quotes.
Yeah. I thought I was the only one. I have like a million on mine.
Come on in. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Is confidence everything?
I don't know about everything, but I think it's a huge part. If I could rate it from 1 to 10, I would definitely say an 8. And again, it's because it's the start. It's the start. We enter a race. You have to have the confidence to write your name on a paper and say that you're going to do it. Answering Rasheem's email, I had to have the confidence to say I was good. Walking here, nervous and all, I just said, you know what, Taiji, you could do this, and whether you believe it or not, it's one thing, but you have to tell yourself. And,
right.
And again, I don't think it's everything, but I think it's a huge part. I think that a lot of things start from that initiation.
Well, first of all, I'm glad you had the same reaction to the email, because I opened it and my roommate was like, why are you making that face? It's like, I'm not the person this man thinks I am. What's about to happen here? It was literally the first thing I said. Like, I'm not enough of a person for this. But yeah, like, confidence is the foundation.
Yeah.
Quote of the day.
Yeah, confidence is the foundation. Like, we talked about, like, the research and the work you need to put in to make the success happen, but if you don't have the the confidence to put yourself out there to start going for it, you can't go anywhere with it. So I don't think it's everything, but I think it's the launching point.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you.
By the way, you're doing great.
Oh, thank you. You too.
I'm 5, baby. No, I'm gonna say it's like 11 for me. Like it is.
It's 11?
It's 11. Baby.
11 out of what?
There we go, baby. There we go. 'Cause, like that is like it's not. We know it's not everything, but that is so important and it's so crucial. Like. Even personally speaking, as a guy, right, in New York, like you women and like, you know, like I'm a good person around, I get a professional, like confidence is everything. Like if you're, even if you're an attractive or unattractive guy, a lot of it is confidence in how you approach your woman or the woman or just approach your partner, significant, whoever. It's confidence. And a lot of times if you have that, right, you're able to win over the other person because people are attracted to confidence, right? And all it takes is you build it up, and that one step, to your point, to both of your points, where that's the foundation, that's the start, and that goes a very long way. So personally, and not only the initiation of meeting someone, but like during the course of a relationship as well, like that's very important, right? On a professional level, to me, that's like having the confidence to do something new, having the confidence to take up something that you've never known and learn, and the research and the studying and figure it out and learn something new and be better for it. To do all that, you needed the confidence in the first place. To your point, to use your analogy, just to get in the race, you need to have the confidence, right? To start, if you want to do, run marathons or I want to start back going to the gym again. Yeah, I feel, but if you get the confidence to go and you keep going, right, you're gonna look back 3 months from now and say, oh wow, I would have never thought that I would have been running. I could run a marathon, or I could run a 5K, or I could lift this much, or do this type of circuit or whatever. So to me, confidence is everything. It obviously, we know it's not in the big picture. It's not the entire piece of the puzzle, or it's not the entire. It's not just one puzzle piece, but it accounts for so many things. Right, and I think you're able to put yourself in such a great position. So confidence, very different than cocky, obviously, but putting yourself in that position, right, to execute and just learn new things, right? Like there's a lot of different things. Quite frankly, I felt if I had the confidence, I may be in a better off circumstance, or I may, whether it be financially or career-wise or emotionally or personality, just growth as a man, right? I probably would have been in a better position. Relationships. I didn't have confidence to do different things, right? And it took a while for me to gain that, to say X, Y, Z, or to do not something else, or to know my own worth as an individual, vice versa. Because you have to take the courage and confidence to feel like that and say, no, this is what I believe I am. You can't treat me, or, so right. Same thing professionally. When you're looking to get a raise or a promotion, it's confidence. Not only, but that's the driving factor. Mm-hmm. And if you have that, to me, the other pieces, yeah, you have to work on it to ensure you have the information to back it up in those type of scenarios. But I think confidence is it's one of the most crucial pieces, right? And factors for a lot of different things in life, right? Just in general. Like to me, that's very important because I've seen it. I've seen people who've had it, and I've seen people who have not had it, and I've seen where it took a lot of people. Right, when you talk about personal, so attractive and unattractive crap, when you talk about professional, right, I've seen so many things happen because someone was confident, and I've seen them, and I've watched them, and I'd be like, damn, I wish I could do that. Mm-hmm. And I've seen them in again, both circles, so women like, oh, this, or the professional aspect, and they would come back to me like, dude, just go and talk, like, have a conversation, and that's all I did. Right, the person would say, that's all I did. I had a conversation, and it put me in a position. Oh, I got this person's business card, or now I know about this, and I've researched this. Right, and the Uber, when I took an Uber here, just having a conversation. The guy was like, "Oh, try this restaurant here. This is where it's popping." Or, you guys doing a podcast? Hey, this is the person.
Popping means happening.
This is a person's podcast, and she's successful now where she doesn't even work her day job anymore. She does her own thing. Or, hey, you're going to this location? Oh, on this street, like there's a bunch of creatives. I think you guys can probably go over there and showcase your work, and and all that was like. If I didn't want to talk to him and be a jerk, I could have as well. But sometimes people don't want to talk, or they may be nervous or shy, but having the confidence to say, hey, you know what? Not only am I going to say hi, but I'm going to have a conversation with you and ask you these different things. And it was a great rapport. So I'm just going to say it's very important because I've seen it. I just there's so many things I can put to confidence with my own success or other people in all my life of living so far. So it's important to me.
You kind of spoke to this as well, Simba. So you may not have any more to add on to this question, but for Jess and Taiji,
I'm gonna say nothing.
How do we improve our confidence level? How do we improve our confidence level?
I think it's stuff that we've already brought up, right? Like you brought up self-talk, which I think is the biggest thing, and that's what I have to check myself on, right? Like I told you, my first reaction was, I'm not who this man thinks I am, and then I had to go through and process that to be able to email you back, right? Like that was my first inner narrative, having the self-reflection to catch that, check it, unpack it a little, and then move past it is one of the biggest things for me, and that's an ongoing thing. I have to do that all the time.
Self-talk, that's really important. For me too is today, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Okay, talk about it.
Yeah.
Get that fire, baby.
Jump in the deep end.
Exactly.
We're swimming.
It's you may not know for sure how things are going to turn out or feel so great about it initially, but now I can feel like Hot 97 Taiji Brower. Ain't no telling where this could go now. I'm ready to inbox DJ Envy. So, I'm just saying, I never ever did this before. And now
I'm gonna let you finish.
Taiji and I are gonna start our own spin-off podcast when this is over. Spin-off competitor.
Welcome back to Curious Success.
They going in.
I think it's definitely one willing or showing the willingness to live beyond the limit. I really think that it comes with that, and it's actually if how one is taught, how they're raised. I think the upbringing plays so much with one being able to develop confidence, and if they may have come from a dysfunctional household, could be foster care system, whatever it is, parents that were on drugs or absentee parent or whatever the case, that's so challenging for one to actually be able to develop confidence. Some people who could be overweight, some people could be too slim, could be a challenge and issue for some people where it just diminishes their confidence. Mm-hmm. So I really feel like that plays a part, and some people don't really know what it is to when it comes to where there's a will, there's a way. Mm-hmm. What that really means, and it's well, if you have the will, you can find a way, but it's can someone, some people cannot tap into that, and that's a challenge for them. That's a hardship. Mm-hmm. So it's the self-talk is hey, I ain't doing shit. It's I'm limiting myself. I know I can only go so far, and this is what I'm used to. This is my comfort zone. So
I want to piggyback on that, and that was a great point, because a friend and I were talking, and we were just saying how everything is a learned behavior. You come into this world neutral, and you pick up things as you go along from what you're around, who you're around. And I just remember a kid on the playground, and it's just no, don't stop. You're going to get hurt. Do you know what that's doing? That's allowing them to set limits and become fearful and take away that child's confidence, not knowing, because we're overprotective sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so upbringing has a lot to do with it. Sometimes you gotta let them just swing on the monkey bar, and yeah, because now if they swing on the monkey bar later on, they'll just swing in the studio. I'm trying to tie it in. But
they're gonna fire you at 97 for that.
But I think you're right. Your upbringing has a lot to do with whether how strong or weak, so to say, your confidence may be.
And to piggyback off your piggyback, like I completely agree. Your upbringing is huge. I was also just thinking about like who you surround yourself with now and present is such an impact about whether you're around people who build you up or break you down.
You're supposed to choose your crowd, but it's like I think that's very important. Like, who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. And like even in this room, I'm sitting across from Taiji, who's like, "You're doing great." Like it shapes things so much. And in those moments when you can't break through your self-talk, having someone else there to offer you, we don't want to always rely on external affirmations, but they can be that like spark sometimes for people. And I think surrounding ourselves with folks who have their own aspirations and are backing yours can be the thing that launches you when you're working on your own confidence.
Very helpful. Yeah. In my experience, it's been very helpful. Yeah. I think we kind of like encouraged each other to do this without even saying the words. Just like, go for it. Yes. It helped me a lot.
Yeah.
What is more important, initiating change or reacting to change?
Both. You first initiate it and then you follow through. And so, we come up with ideas of how things could be better, and then we act on it. Did I deviate or I don't know? Did I answer? Because I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. How about that? I'll throw it back to you.
Well,
are we?
How you interpret the question is how you interpret it. I'm not going to tell you it's a right or wrong answer.
Okay.
All right?
So initiating it is coming up with different, and then acting on it. I could act on something. Oh, okay, reacting on it. I could react on something that you came up with, but as long as it impacts change.
So do you feel that way?
I guess so. If I said it, no. But I think both is equally important.
Because I can understand someone saying it might be both because they're trying to balance out, situations where it might cause for them to react to it. And then there's other situations where it will cause them to initiate what needs to happen. They need to cause this change. So it's like, okay, well, I have to initiate this. All right. I have this idea. Some people may not be getting this, or like it's in my head. I have to bring it out. I have to initiate it so that way I can cause action to happen or occur. Mm-hmm. Some situations you have to react to. Mm-hmm. That quote says life is 90% what happens to you and 10% life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So it's like that's pretty much real. Like every day you're reacting to something, but also you are initiating something as well. Mm-hmm. So it depends. It's like, do you feel like is initiating is more important? Or is reacting more important?
Sometimes you don't necessarily have to be the one initiating, but if you're helping solve the problem, that's why I say both. Yeah. So sometimes you can come up with it and initiate it, follow it through, and then sometimes you can come up with it and we can, react on it. You're talking about very important topics for the youth or period. And so I didn't come up with that. But guess what? We all a piece of the puzzle today. And so we thank you for initiating it so we can react on it. I'll pass that over.
You got a slick stuff.
Yeah.
I do think both are very important. I think I'm probably leaning a little towards initiation as the one that comes out on top for me. Just because I think that's what protects you from stagnation. And as important as it is to be able to, roll with whatever, I also think, at a certain point, we want to stop rolling with the punches and be able to take charge of our own lives. And so I think that initiative piece at the end of the day, I think, can sometimes make or break you. So I think that edges out reaction a little bit for me. Reaction sustains you. Initiative to me kind of is what builds you up, keeps you going, gets you to that next peak.
Nice.
Tough act to follow.
Yeah, good. She's like, oh, you good. I view it like a little bit of both. Like I think of it like just trying to think of it like a cycle, like a yin and a yang. Like they're both like they're symbiotic. You both need each other to keep. Like so, for example, like on a macro level, like the Colin Kaepernick, like the kneeling. He kneeling for police brutality.
And social injustice.
And social injustice to minorities, etc. Like he ain't initiating it; he's reacting to what happened, right? But then I also think by him reacting, right, then people initiate a new movement or new things, right? So it's like I'm gonna butcher it. Somebody help me out. Cyclical. That's what's okay. There we go.
Okay.
So I think stop.
Right.
So I think it's like that a lot.
You got some
like,
words in them.
Chill. I think I think it's like that a lot where things there are so you have on a micro level things happening and a lot of these Me Too movement, right? That wasn't initiated. That kind of to me people reacted to what was going on. Right, and I think because of that, now other people are initiating. Now other people are stepping up. Now other people are saying, I didn't let me go and say this. You know what? Let's do this now. This is what's good. This is a new law. This is when I start my own company, women are allowed X, Y, Z. Men are allowed this. It should be equal. This. If this happens, this is what's like. To me, you're initiating, but I think it kind of came from the reaction of other people. Right, so I think it's like this weird, like they're both equally important, like symbiotic kind of like entities. I was
actually just thinking symbiotic. You know,
no! Chill. See,
you only said that because your name is Simba. No. You only said that.
So that's how I feel. Like I feel they're both right, and maybe like in one phase, one is more important than the other because of that phase. But the next phase, the initiation or reaction is better, right? Because you think of movements and you think of different things. A lot of it is you're reacting to what has transpired. Right, you're not initiating anything. Like a lot of these things, like people are not coming out and doing. And I'm keeping it to the movements, but on a macro level, people are not coming out and doing, and they know it. Right, but people are reacting to certain things that come out, right, and they say, okay, let's make a stand. I'm reacting to what has transpired, and I think because of those things, like people, the civil rights movement, you think like all that happened because of what was happening to, right. African Americans,
and it was equally great because of both parts,
right. So, and I think the reaction, right, from that stirred the initiation of all those movements and all those acts and all those laws. And the desegregation of segregation, if that makes sense, right? So that I think it's a little bit of both. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You still hating? Go ahead.
I don't even know who that was directed to. Why do people raised in adverse circumstances continue cycles of self-harm where others stop the cycle?
Say it one more time.
So why do people raised in adverse circumstances, raised in adversity, whatever the case, continue cycles of self-harm where others stop the cycle? So let me unpack that, okay? Someone that grew up in a poverty environment, right? They already know these were established life conditions. You could be drugs, probably not access to healthy foods selections in the neighborhood. You can have people that are robbing, stealing, doing all that stuff under the sun because that's how this environment is that you grew up in, right? So that's the adversity. So it's like you have the choice whether or not you are going to continue that behavior based on what you see, based on maybe what might be within one's household, because it could be just challenges within their household, or you stop that. So the question is based on, why do people who grew up in those environments either stop that or continue it?
Mindset, comfort zone. I've read a study about two twins that grew up in the same household, same mom, same dad. Dad was an alcoholic. Mother wasn't. One twin took that trait or that addiction and became an alcoholic, and one twin decided that he was never going to drink because of how his father drank so much.
Yeah. The effect of that.
Yeah. So mindset. I could definitely put myself on the table and say, I'm one of four, and I have some siblings that I definitely didn't grow up with no silver spoon. Oh, how I wish. But I just always knew that I wanted more. I didn't have all the outlets, or it wasn't easily accessible. Hence how I even put myself in Streetwise Partners. Like, and I had a career. Remember? Usually that was something that career advancement helps you get, and I already had a career, but I just wanted to do more, you know, and part of that was my guardian angel, my aunt. She was just, you know, she showed me so much, and then I had a mom that, you know, she did what she could with what she had. Yeah. But then my aunt was a nurse, and she strived for, I don't want to say a bit more, but it was just two different sides of the spectrum. I'll say that, so my mother won't beat me. And you know, it's just it's really, you know, something that you have to tap into from the inside. On this journey, it was a lot of things that I wasn't used to. I had to read to develop my mind, and there was sometimes it was boring, but I knew that there was things that I had to do to get to where I need to go. And so comfort zone. Whoo, boy. I always say, if you're in your comfort zone is your broke zone. Get out of that comfort zone. Anytime. It wasn't comfortable. Right. But I didn't know what would happen, what would transpire out of it.
And now you're here and you're getting it in. Anyway, go ahead.
So mindset and comfort zone plays a lot. You know, just because you grew up in the area that didn't show you much or didn't provide certain produce, you know, organic or not, doesn't mean that you don't have what it takes to go get it, you know, or seek it, or seek a friend that did, and he could hold your hand, and you know, I think
that was like a great example, like, because you have people who come from similar households and backgrounds, right? So you basically, from a statistical perspective, you can, like, the numbers on the board, right? You can, same place, same background, same household, right? And you find, for whatever reason, like, so mother and dad, right, alcoholics, right, or, you know, some adverse situation, right? And for whatever reason, to your point, you use the same household, like twins, but like one person makes it out, one sibling, so to speak, and the other doesn't, or one person in this family makes it out, or is quote unquote successful, and the other person doesn't. And I think you made a great point about mindset, like, because I know certain people, like, people think, going to the privilege angle, like, that, you know, there's opportunities, but I know for a fact people, like, not the only, but one of the main reasons why they made it out and were successful was because they had someone pushing them, right? So I think on one hand, you have someone who has the go-getter mindset, like, regardless of what situation they're in, there are some people who are able to make it out. Just it is what it is. And then on the flip side, you have some people who are not able to make it out. And I think if they had some of the other opportunities that other people have, where not only may need a push, or you may need to constantly push them. I know a lot of people tell me, hey, I would have never got into my Ivy League school or my little Ivy in Maine or New Hampshire or something like that if my mom and my dad, like, I wasn't the greatest student. I was good at certain things, but they were like, they just kept pushing me. Right. And I was great. And I got into a great, but like, you ask her now, like, is she where she thought she would be? And she's like, no. But I think she got where she, like, college, and was setting herself up. And obviously the thing that she did as a child was because she got that. And obviously those folks in those environments don't, right? So you get a lot more of it, right? And then another point to me is, like, you know, what I was saying is, like, the mentorship and having that, to me, benefits a lot, right? And if you don't have that, it becomes very difficult, right, for someone to make it out of an environment. And you're basically, because I remember, like, my mom and dad used to be like, they would always say this, and even amongst their own siblings, well, that person made it, why didn't you? Meaning, like, we're all from the same neighborhood, all from the same household. This person did X, why couldn't you do X? And you when you come to realize, and you get older, you're like, well, they're two different people. And to your point, they're two different mindset. And people develop and learn at different rates. People, you know, nothing comes before its time. And I've always, you know, like, have sisters who, like, okay, yeah, she's doing great. Another one, she's, you know, so it's like, I 100% agree with you. It's some. Part of me thinks it's like it's innate, because you can have people all of us could be in this room, and we could be from like this, like the born and raised. A bad example. I was gonna say born and raised in this room, but but like all of us could be from a particular environment, like same household, and for whatever reason, and okay, you could have different ideas of success, but the idea is you're gonna find, like, I don't know the statistic, but for whatever reason, not all four of us are gonna be successful in our own right in whatever we may choose. Someone is gonna be held back, right, because of whatever adverse.
The devil
right,
is a
right, whatever adverse scenario, whatever adverse scenarios in their neighborhood, right, and it's understandable, right. So a part of me is like, I always feel like people kind of like, oh well, that person made it. Well, no, that doesn't mean that the environment isn't bad, right. And I think if the person didn't, if XYZ other people had, you would have a much better chance of success, period. So I do think it's mindset, right? I do think it's just innate, maybe innate in some people, and some people do well, and like they just have that go-getter, maybe just opportunity, you know, they get an opportunity, maybe a little bit of luck. I always say a little bit of luck for me too, like, you know, and something happens, and then other people, they get the bad end of the stick. But I also feel like if someone was pushing and mentoring them, they would have been shaped and would have been also successful in their own right. Because you don't have to do the same thing, but you can also be successful in whatever you choose. So, you know, J Money, Jess.
Working with youth, you ask yourself this question all the time. Like, you want a recipe that you can offer to people, or you want to figure out what quality you can build up in somebody or help them build up in themselves. And I think that there's like a cocktail of qualities, and it's a cocktail of qualities that I don't even always understand. And I think mindset is huge. I think access to things like mentorship and opportunity is huge. I think other skills and talents go into it, and this is controversial, but I think it's a little bit of luck. Some people get that opportunity right at the right moment that builds them up, and some people get kicked when they're down at a moment that ends up holding them back for not forever, but potentially a really long time. And so I think it's so many different factors combined with how that is playing out within your environment. And I also think support system is huge. Having one person who believes in you can make such a difference. And then even sometimes if it's just that the person who believes in you is yourself, and like figuring out how to do that for you and be there for you. I just think it's a multitude of things that are all, you know, combining with each other, playing off of each other all the time. And that also it's changing all the time. It's different for every individual, and it's different for every individual at different points in their life. And I think that's why success is so complicated. Like, everybody has a different success story, and you can ask somebody how they got to success, and they'll tell you about it, and then you'll talk to them 2 months later, and all of a sudden they're talking about probably similar things, but they might have a totally different take. And I think it's just a really complicated question, and it's a lot of self-reflection, and it's a lot of like time and space to figure yourself out and figure out what's around you.
I think I definitely appreciate all of your responses to that question. I knew it was definitely a complicated question. I feel like it has layers. And I'm not saying this is the right answer, but I feel like a lot of the challenges one has, it comes back to their upbringing and how they were raised. I was just like, you know, thinking about some family members and the fact that I knew that I could have like been a positive example to them. I could have been that positive role model, but I wasn't in their life at a significant time where I felt like could have been impactful to their growth and their development. But I knew there was another family member that was around, but this was not their parent. And I felt like, you know, they were still, regardless of that person being that positive role model or that example to the side and who they respected, they still had their parent who they drew like all their knowledge and information from. Mm-hmm. So it was like they pretty much were their first mentors, and they remained their mentor regardless of them feeling like, okay, well, my parents don't really seem to have all in order, but regardless of seeing that, I still can't see myself growing beyond that. And I would start placing limitations on myself and whatever be the case, even though I have another family member that's actually saying, no, you can do this. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm doing. You see I have a house now. You see this is where I've been able to grow and develop to. You can do this too as well. But it still had turned out to be a challenge for them, and some of them are still challenged by that at this point in their lives, which is always sad and disappointing to me. And I always want to try to help them change that, but it's like it's a challenge.
I would just say absolutely it starts at home, and that's the base, right? But I'll also say it doesn't necessarily, ain't no guarantees. It doesn't necessarily mean, not to poo-poo what you said, what you believe, or it doesn't necessarily mean if you were there, if they would have been better off. Right? Meaning if
Mm-hmm.
you were there in their lives, who's to say it could have ended up the same way? Who's to say it could have ended up better? Who's to say it could have ended up a little bit better? You don't know. You know what I'm saying? So that's why that's why I think I do think it starts at home, and that's putting yourself in you try to put yourself in the best possible position, right? Just the same way I always say, my dad always just say, hey, it's better to stay well than to get well. So put your best foot forward to stay and maintain, as opposed to trying to fix something. So I think it doesn't necessarily mean if you were there, or anyone for that matter, that it would rectify the situation, right? But the idea is you put your best foot forward, and if you had the right home, right? It starts at home. And if you had the right home, and to help you use the mentorship from the parents, that's where it starts. You're putting your kids in a better position to be successful, and get law-abiding citizens or great people, whatever you want to call it. I think it really does. But if you don't have that, that's why I was saying that push, that mentorship from outside sources can help, right? Mm-hmm. So that's all I wanted to just chip in.
And I definitely agree with that. That's why I said I use example when I knew there was another family member that was present.
Yeah.
So it's even if I wasn't there, that person was there.
Yeah.
So it's they still went back to how they were raised.
Yeah.
Compared to okay, me not being there, it probably would have still turned out the same way. I would have had half and half. I would have had these over here doing their numbers, and these over here looking crazy.
Yeah.
But it was what it was. In terms of that, I think it's going to continue to be a challenge, and these are for those individuals that continue to self-harm and feed into pretty much the destruction of themselves, or carry on those cycles. If there's I don't know if it's just where I work at in that area, because I work in the Bronx, but I just feel there's so many young parents, and it's your situation is looking tough and very challenging, and then you're going to choose to say, you know what, I'm going to have a child. Say, are you with the child's father? In certain cases, no. So it's automatically it's this has become a decision for you. You raising your child up in a dysfunctional environment. We're not having both parents. You're probably going to have drama, beef. There's going to turn into a movie show and all this stuff and all this additional stuff that's going to occur. And it's that's unfair. It's unfair, but that's a reality. That's something that's happening nowadays, where you have some young parents that are out here like that. And that's the exact scenario. That's their situation.
And to me, sometimes you don't know, and I'm not going to sit here and be I have all the answers, right? But
don't act like that, Sway.
No, I'll sway. But no, you if you try to trace that back, so the girl, who had the young girl who had the child, you trace that back and probably say, okay, were her parents in her life, and did she have a good home, right? To do that, right? And again, you can change the cycle, but then if you trace it back, you say, did that girl have the home and the right setup, the right mentorship to guide her and do the right thing? Because maybe she's not at fault. She's young. She's a kid. Imagine what you were doing at 16, 17, 18, And then the idea is the next piece is the cycle is not broken, because now you have kids raising kids. So how do you think that's going to work out, But I always feel you can break the cycle, right? Because I grew up, my dad wasn't there.
Your example of it.
Right. My dad wasn't there.
Your example of it.
Right.
Jess, your example of it.
So right. So it's you can break out of it, right? And now I know better. So if I have a child and and things happen, so even if you're not happily married, things happen, but I'm able to say, hey, I'm not gonna I'm going to ensure I bring my child up in the best possible household so they can ensure that they can pay it back. And like you want them to be, that's to me, that's the biggest project. So you want that child, girl or boy, to be the best version of yourself, right? And then they can learn and pay it back and help break. That's how you break the cycles, right? So, you can.
I think it starts from there, but it don't have to end there. I ultimately feel like Jack and the Beanstalk, like, you gotta tap into something inside you. Like, you gotta know that this world is not as huge as it is for no reason.
This has to be last points, everyone. This has to be last points.
And it's just like,
feel like a 2-minute marker. Ding, ding, ding.
yeah, your upbringing sets the tone. I just think that it doesn't have to end there. And that's, I mean, this is so controversial. Like, this, it's,
it's such a big.
It's just that there are people who proven
that
part to be true and not true, because you have proof. You have proof. And so it's all depend on the individual. Like, it was something dire inside of me, and still to this day, God, please, somebody hear this podcast and reach out. I don't know, but it's something. I know that this is not the end. There's so much more. Do I know what? No, I can't tell you. But what I am going to do is continue to keep putting one foot in front of the other. A body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest stays at rest. And so my upbringing wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst.
Right.
But there was something dire inside me that know that it's more to Taiji than just what was at hand at that particular moment.
Right.
And still to this day. And so...
And that's what, just like I'm gonna say something real quick. And I was just gonna say, like, to that point, I was just gonna say this, like, it's not where you start, but it's like where you're going, So even that young child or that young woman, you said got a child, okay, you got a whole lot of life to live. Who's to say you can?
That happened to me.
Right.
I had a kid at 20.
Right. You got a whole lot of life to live. So you can change. You're still young. I don't know her age, but she's still, you said young, so I'm assuming early 20s or even less. So you still got a lot of life to live to change that, right? But and yeah, maybe the individual, but to me, this is what I always say. Sometimes, because I use from my experience, like I wasn't the kid who knew every disciplined and this and this. I had some people that say, hey, what the you doing? Like, you better right, and they put me back in that, you're racing and you're a track. I was veering. It's like put you back in that track so this is what you have to do. So hopefully there's people, and that's why programs like that exist. That's why you exist, right, to help those people, to ensure that if they don't have someone like that, or if they're not like that innately, that you're able to put them in that position to say, hey, girl, you got a lot of life to live. It's not where you are right now is where you're going to be ended up next 10, 20 years. Experience
could piss you off or piss you on.
Right. That's what I want to say real quick.
Had any last points, Jess?
Money. Jess Boogie.
Similarly, I think both that internal drive and also just I think my own personal experience was I didn't start with knowing the goals I wanted. I started with knowing what I wanted to get away from. It was so much I
got snap on that. That was good.
And that was a hard thing to sort of be defined by what you don't want to be, what you don't want to repeat in your early life. But that was where it started. That was I don't want this, so I need to work as hard as I can to get away from this, and I don't know what that looks like yet. And it took me some time to figure that out, and lots of ways that I'm still figuring it out. But that was the starting point for me, and I think lots of times for our young people, that's things I hear from them is they're I don't even know what my future can look like. I just know I don't want that. And knowing that can be a starting point, and that can be the spark for people. And our chip on the shoulder thing too. That was the chip on my shoulder, was not that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get away from that. And then from there, building and building and building and going on.
Well, definitely thank you all for coming out. This was definitely, for me, a thought-provoking and I feel impactful conversation. If you want to plug anything right now, we always allow our guests the opportunity to plug anything. If it's social media, if you have a blog, if you got something else going on and you want to draw attention to that, feel free to plug that in right now.
Taiji Brower. Instagram is MS_Brower, BROWER. Facebook is Taiji, Taiji, and last name Brower, Brower. And let's see each other on the beaches of the world.
I don't have a fancy plug for anything.
It's okay.
Self-care, self-love, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm a social worker. I gotta preach it. That's my pitch.
Oh, so definitely, thank you all once again for joining us today on another podcast episode of Curious Success. We may revisit this conversation again because I feel like it was really good, and it's probably there's a bunch of different things that I've like our parking lot. From this that I can think, can bring back out of the parking lot and actually probably create another podcast based off of that information that was shared today. So definitely thank you all. We will be on Facebook, we'll be on YouTube, and we all continue to build on other platforms so that way we can actually get this conversation out to a broader audience. So thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.